Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Huddle Up with Gus. I'm your host, former NFL quarterback Gus Frerotte, and welcome to the new 1631 Digital News Studio. You know, some people say, no news is good news. Well, I say to those people, you've never read 1631digitalnews.com. Go to 1631digitalnews.com to get your latest news, sports, music, and entertainment. And maybe even listen to your favorite podcast, Huddle Up with Gus. Check it out today at www.1631digitalnews.com.
Welcome to what surely will be a doozy of a matchup right here, sports fans. Whether your game is on the gridiron, at the diamond, or on the links, we can only say, welcome to this week's Huddle Up with Gus. 15-year NFL quarterback Gus Frerotte, passion for sports, has taken him on the field and behind the benches, playing for 7 NFL franchises with 114 TDs under his belt. Gus knows who the players are and how the games are won.
It's not every day you get to hang out with an NFL quarterback, huh?
Okay, sports fans, from the decked out and plush 1631 digital studios, it's kickoff time. So snap your chin straps on and get ready to huddle up with Gus.
Strange variety, but again, a big play to Leslie.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Huddle Up with Gus. I'm your host, Gus Frerotte, 15-year NFL quarterback. I want to welcome you to Huddle Up with Gus. I want to thank 1631 Digital News and their studio for helping me produce the show. I want to thank our team, Terry Schulman and Ian Kiss. Terry just had a birthday, so happy birthday, Terry. And I want to thank Sounder FM for hosting our podcast. Sounder FM has done an incredible job with all their new technologies and doing the transcribing of the show and putting it up on YouTube. So thank you to Sounder. So today we have a wonderful guest, a gentleman who played a long time in the NFL, 14 years. He's in the Ring of Fame for the Patriots. He was a number 1 draft pick. I can go on and on about this guy, but I think the best thing about Drew Bledsoe right now is that he makes wine for everybody, and it's incredible. I'm waiting to get mine. I'm in Pennsylvania, so I have to drive to Washington State to get my wine. So someday I'll do that, Drew. But joining me today on Huddle Up with Gus is Drew Bledsoe. Drew, how are you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing well, man. You know, actually, I mean, I didn't know it was Terry's birthday. I would have just sent some wine out there for Terry. I mean, screw you, Gus. I'll just send some for Terry. That's it. You can go beg her for a glass.
I know she's in Maryland. You probably can ship it there.
Yeah.
I can't get anything shipped to PA.
No, that's it's weird. There's a lot of things they don't tell you when you get in the wine business, and one of them is that because you're in the booze business, you're actually dealing with 50 distinct countries in the United States. Every state is totally different. I actually had to be a lobbyist in Massachusetts. I had to register as a lobbyist, so I had to go actually get behind the scenes in the political world and see how things are actually done. And it was actually a lot worse than I thought, dude. It was terrible. I could imagine. And but we got the law changed in Massachusetts, so maybe you need to find some Pennsylvania wine dude to go lobby for you in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, we do. And I don't know if the state will ever change it because we have our liquor stores. That's where it's different. Yeah. And we still have beer distributors. We're now just getting it into like gas stations.
Right.
Like when I lived in Missouri, when I retired, you could go to anywhere and get booze, you can get wine, you can get beer. And you can't do that in PA. So it's kind of rough. Right.
Yeah. So, it's interesting, man. They like to keep their mitts on it, but so far we're pretty good. We've been able to open most states, which is cool.
Yeah, that is cool, and that's probably the hardest part of is getting the product out there and selling it. But anyway, Drew, let's go back. I know when you were a kid, you moved a lot, and then you guys settled in Walla Walla. Was that because your father was coaching, or tell me a little bit about that story, and then tell me a little bit about how you fell in love with sports.
Yeah, actually those two stories are kind of tied together. But we moved around a bit when I was younger, mostly just in Eastern Washington. It wasn't like we were moving across the country or anything. But yeah, mom and dad were both teachers, and dad bounced around a little bit, coaching high school football and teaching. Thankfully they kind of they kind of settled down once I got to sixth grade. So I was able to go from sixth grade on with the same group of dudes, which was great. But sports were, that was sort of the deal, right? You move around a bunch. If you go out to recess and if you can run a little bit and throw the ball around a little bit, it's easier to make friends. You get picked for the teams. So it was sort of an icebreaker, and it was a way to get to know people when you're moving into a new place, was to go out and turn out for some teams. And so that part was, it was helpful. It was helpful. And then once we settled down in Walla Walla, but the funny thing, Gus, and I don't know how you were growing up, but man, if you saw me in like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, you would not have looked out there and said, hey, that's going to be a professional athlete right there. I grew really fast. My feet grew first, and then I grew tall and skinny, and it was kind of awkward, when I was growing really fast like that. And so it took a little while to grow into my body for sure.
Yeah. So did you, for me, I had a lot of growing pains as well. 9th grade was the year I grew about 6 inches, and my knees, everything were killing me, but you still went out and played sports. Like, even though I went through all this stuff, my dad was like, get your butt out there. So I played football, basketball, baseball, never did track. I know you were a track guy. You threw, did you throw discus and javelin?
Yeah. Threw the disc and the javelin and high jumps but that was more just, it was mostly just a deal to go out and watch the girls run around the track, to be honest. But it was something to do. I wasn't. It was funny that my least favorite of those events was the javelin. That was the only one I qualified for state, and I hated the javelin. It just hurt to throw that thing.
Well, that's because you had to keep your arms straight. It made no sense.
No sense at all. Run really fast, stop, arch your back, and let your arm just turn into it. It just didn't feel good at all. So I hated that one. But my 6th grade year was, I think was the year though, because we couldn't play football until 7th grade of any kind, not even flag football. But it was soccer, basketball, wrestling, swimming, baseball, track. I think it was like 6 sports in one year that year. So it was that was kind of crazy. And I was actually pretty good. You can imagine. I was a pretty good swimmer. I just hated it because I was built like a spear. Right, I was so skinny, and I had big hands and big feet. So but they wanted me to practice swimming at 5:30 in the morning on my summer vacation, and that just wasn't happening.
Yeah, that wasn't happening for you, Leah. I could see a lot of football players not. Swimmers, they get up early, got to get to the pool. I was not ever doing that. I had to get my sleep, man.
No doubt.
Yeah, I could see you being a good swimmer, though. I mean, with long arms, long feet, I'm touching a wall before anybody.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Yeah, no, hell yeah. Just no resistance because I was just, I could swim in a garden hose. I was so skinny back in the day. Yeah, no, that was good, man. It's, sports were then and still are to this day so formative and in my life and my family's life, and I think it's just even more important now than it probably ever has been for kids to be involved in sports of some sort.
Yeah, ours was kind of like we didn't have growing up. I mean, we're kind of the same age, so we didn't have that. We're gonna stay in all day. We have internet. We have video games. We have all that kind of stuff. It was like, go outside, go play, go do something, and then come back when it gets dark.
Yeah, 100%. I apologize. This is going off. It's not my phone. I would never do that to you. It's my wife's iPad is ringing. That's what the noise is. So blame her. It was very different. You remember, I mean, when we were growing up, you didn't have to have like an organized, scheduled game to go play. You just went out, and if there was a ball, you picked it up and came up with a game and ran it around. And basketball, tennis. You go play tennis. I was never a good tennis player, but you pick it. Or you'd find a tennis racket and a ball, and you'd go play baseball with the tennis racket and the ball. I mean, you just made up your games. It didn't have to be. I feel like now a lot of times there's a tendency for it to get so regimented where you don't go play unless it's an organized game with referees and all that stuff. And
Well, how did you learn your throwing motion? Because mine was like my dad. We just went in the backyard and threw.
Yeah, I was. I mean, we grew up around it. My dad was, like I said, my dad was a football coach in high school, but he was an offensive lineman in college. He would tell you, and I think this is actually true. This is not just dad being nice. That for myself and for my brother, any athletic ability that we had came from my mother. And that's I think a lot of guys say that jokingly. I think in our case it was probably actually the truth. Dad was big and strong, but mom actually supplied natural athletic ability to the extent that we had any. But we had a couple of guys growing up that I was able to be around because my dad was a coach. The Bennett family, and those guys are the ones that really helped kind of guide the throwing motion. The funny thing though is that, I mean, if I've sort of, it's one of those things I've learned more about as I've gotten older. And really just like in the last 4 or 5 years coaching high school football, I've been around a couple of guys, got to go spend some time with Tom House down in San Diego. And there were some things that, particularly when I was, in the NFL, there were some things that some coaches tried to change in my throwing motion. They wanted me to carry the ball higher and, kind of Peyton Manning and get the ball all up here.
Yeah, right.
And the guys that I've worked with now, they're like, well, you're lucky you didn't listen. And I always carried it kind of low. And they've now studied it all biomechanically. And like, no, it's actually a more efficient motion to have the ball down low, and it comes off more naturally. And so thankfully, every time they tried to do that, I'd try and be coachable and carry the ball up high, and then we'd get to practice and get into a game, and the ball would drop back down. And thankfully, it just felt natural to do that. So because otherwise, they would have screwed me up.
I'm the same way. As I got older and played longer, it got from here to a little more sidearm. Just I don't know why, and then you hear these guys that they work on that they're every day working on their motion and everything like that. And it's more scientific. For me, it was like, okay, am I going to be accurate today or throwing a spiral? You've had those days where you go out and it's like, man, this thing is not spinning right. So it's you go through all those motions. And for me, it wasn't like I could go back to a coach that taught me how to do this, right? I'm like you. I grew up in the back and all my buddies, and we would just throw it around and it's just, hey, I'm just going to figure it out on my own.
Yeah, the one time that I did have to go back and try and figure it out, in my third year, I separated my left shoulder and played with it all kind of taped up. And that really did kind of mess with my motion just because I couldn't do anything with my left side. But in order to fix it, we actually went and got my combine tape and went and looked at what I was doing at the combine and then compared it to what I was doing. And I can't even remember specifically what it was that we changed, but it was sort of like, okay, well, it worked before. Let's just go back and do that rather than try to figure out some new motion. But it's sort of interesting. I mean, because this, man, there's so many quacks out there when it comes to the position of quarterback. Everybody's got their guru. And you and I have probably both met a lot of those guys over the years. But ultimately, after all of that, there are exactly two guys that I've met, and Tom House being one of them, that have actually studied and learned what is efficient for throwing and biomechanically, and it's certainly not what some of the other quacks are teaching. So anyway,
I kind of get that. I see that. I just kind of thinking back when we were kids, and do you remember anybody's talking about biomechanics when we were a kid? Like we didn't have that stuff, back in the 80s. There was nobody saying like, you know what I mean? I grew up watching Terry Bradshaw throw, and I don't remember them ever on TV talking about like, here's his arm angle and here's how he throws. Like nobody ever talked about that stuff. So who was the guy for you? Like when you were in high school, who was it that you watched that you kind of admired?
Oh man, well, the cool thing for us, because I think we are the same age, right? I'm 49. Are you?
Yeah, I'm 49 as well.
Yeah. The cool thing for us was that those guys that we idolized growing up were still playing when we got in the league. And I talk about that a lot. I mean, shoot, man, Elway and Marino and Jim Kelly and Aikman, Steve Young, Joe Montana, right down the list. Warren Moon. I actually got to spend time with Warren Moon when I was a young kid at our football camp. And then all of a sudden we get to actually go out and compete with these guys. I mean, it was just so cool. And I remember it took a little while to get over being a little bit awestruck, being on the field with these guys, because they were drafted when we were 11, that famous quarterback, draft class of 83. So we were like right in prime football, watching idolization time when they had, the greatest quarterback class of all time. And all those guys were still going when we played. And I just remember it was really hard not to be awestruck. My first game was at Buffalo. And I remember I'm down there playing catch. 21, had just watched the Bills in the Super Bowl just a few months before.
Right.
First of all, I saw Bruce Smith come down the tunnel, and I was like, oh, shit, I'm in the wrong place, man. I did not belong here on this field with Bruce Smith. And then Jim Kelly comes running down the tunnel. And he kind of runs by and he pats me on the ass and says, "Hey, good luck, Rook." And I'm like, "Oh shit, that was Mr. Kelly." And all of a sudden you gotta go play it. So it was just a really cool experience to to be there and get to compete against and eventually become friends with guys that were our heroes.
Yeah, they were our heroes, and I used to try to, when you think about it, you try to emulate some of them and their throwing styles, but they were all completely different.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what you talk about biomechanics. I kind of throw that out the window sometime when I talk to kids and things. And it's like, if you go back and look at each individual quarterback from that draft class, they all stepped different. They all threw it different. Their arms were at different angles, but they, it's about getting the job done, really.
It is. It's about figuring out what works for you, and then there are some common things specifically to the arm angle. Like they all eventually got to the same place. It just got there differently.
Yeah.
You ever watch Favre? Favre was actually pretty brilliant at imitating the different guys.
Oh, really? No, I've never seen that video.
Oh man, you gotta go find it. Favre was actually pretty. It was like I had a decent John Elway. I could actually imitate Marino fairly well, his open step and just that really quick motion.
Yeah,
his shoulders were open to start with, and just the ball came out so quick. But you're right. No, it was a sort of like golf swings, right? You look at the golf swings that have been successful throughout history. Man, they couldn't be more different. So
well, it's for me, it's like growing up, and it's I emulated a lot of the Pirates because I was a huge Pirate fan. I live in Pittsburgh, so all those swings from Willie Stargell to Dave Parker to Clemente, all these guys that I grew up watching. You try to emulate their swings, and it's the same thing for quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Like, where's my arm? So guys, and now the great thing is that you can get on and watch all of that. Like, think about we had to wait till Sunday to see any of that shit. Like now you can get on and watch whatever you want, whenever you want.
No doubt, which is really cool. I think in a lot of ways it's really cool. I think in some ways it can be harmful. Right. I think about it. I think you because you watch some of these kids growing up, and like, oh no, you're imitating the wrong thing. You don't imitate the way he dresses and the way he celebrates, and imitate all the work he's doing in the weight room, and all of that stuff that's actually not on the video. And then if you do all of that stuff, then you can work on your touchdown dance. But let's go imitate all the stuff that got him into the end zone, that got him on the team and got him there.
I hear you.
It's a little bit frustrating sometimes. You see these kids, and they're like, no, dude, no, you don't get to do that celebration. You're not Superman. You're 16. Let's go imitate everything that Cam Newton did to earn the right to be in the end zone before you start doing the Superman deal.
Well, I'm sure when you were 16 and you were in high school and you threw a lot of touchdowns, do you have a time when you tried to do that and your dad was like, we don't do that, Drew?
No, I think we were, I mean, it was sort of different. I think, the guys that we watched, there was not a lot of that going on. I mean, Joe Montana would point at the sky, and that was about as crazy as the celebrations got from the quarterbacks that we watched, and so, I think we had the role models we had from that standpoint were different. I do remember watching like the Dolphins receivers back in the day who had their kind of their orchestrated touchdown, stuff, which I thought that was really fun. But I can't dance at all. So, I mean, you put me in the end zone and I start dancing, I'm just going to look like a moron. So
you're like me. You probably need 2 or 3 bottles of wine before you get out on the dance floor.
Before you even try. And even then it doesn't look good. I still don't want anybody watching.
I had so I played with Henry Ellard, right? And you throw Hop a touchdown and he'd do a front flip into the end zone. Right. And I'm like, Henry, can you teach me that? He goes, Gus, you can't do it. I'm like, all right, I'm not even gonna try. We're not gonna go there.
No, let's just leave the flips to the athletes. You just keep throwing the ball, bud.
So you go through high school, you're getting recruited, you're gonna get ready to make this next big transition in your life, and you pick Wash State. What was the big reason for that?
Coach. Just fell in love with Mike Price, who was the coach there. It was also closer to home. I mean, that, it was 2 hours from home, which, that was important. There were, not just for my family, but so many, people that that helped me as I was coming up, and, being close enough to, they could get to watch games. But the other 3 schools that were kind of in the mix, University of Washington was in the mix, Stanford. And then I took a trip to Miami. But I knew I wasn't going to Miami.
You took that plane ride and said, "Yeah, I can't."
Well, I mean, I knew going in, man, that's too far away. But I wasn't going to turn down a trip to Miami. I mean, shoot, man. At that point, I think I'd been on an airplane once or twice in my life, and they're going to fly me down to South Beach in the middle of the winter. I mean, come on. But I knew that was too far away. Matter of fact, the only reason I was that they knew that I existed was that Dennis Erickson, who was their coach down there, had been at Washington State previously. Right. So he'd seen me in high school. Otherwise, they wouldn't have known I existed. It wasn't like they had Huddle and all that stuff that they have today.
I know. It's amazing.
You had to go. I remember sitting downstairs with my dad, with 2 VCRs trying to dub a highlight tape together, and to put together like 2 minutes of video took hours.
My gosh, we did the same thing.
Yeah, and
I ran the wing T in high school, so I had like.
Oh, did you really? Video. I didn't know that. No way. So we ran the wing T. They let you throw it like 3 times a game, and.
I tell the story that in my career in high school, I think I threw it like 45 times, and then I got to my first game in college and threw it like 50 in my first game in college.
Isn't that amazing? How'd you figure out, how to, become a passing quarterback when you didn't have, did you go to like some 7-on-7 stuff in the summer or what?
No, we didn't. There was none of that around here. I went to, I was a big baseball player. I could always throw it no matter what. Yeah. And, playing in the wing T obviously didn't lend itself to learning how to drop back or learning how to, be in the shotgun. We never did any of that stuff. We ran the waggle and some of that stuff. But I got to college my freshman year. They knew I was 6'5", I was a big kid. I could throw it. And it was just a lot of hard work, man, just putting in the time and the effort. We had a coach, Coach Workman, who, we were in the gym. Tulsa didn't have any money. We're throwing the balls against walls and exploding them against the wall. Dunstan Anderson was this kid from Texas, big kid. I'm coming. I was like one of the biggest kids in my high school. And I go there and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be okay. Then you get there and you see like all these other athletes from all these other states. And you're like, oh, I got to work. And I luckily had that kind of mentality from my dad and all. Right. He was one of 15 kids. So
no way.
Yeah. So they grew up in the Depression and like you had to work for everything you had. And that's, when I was in 8th grade, my dad bought me a new pair of cleats to play football, broke my foot the first day of practice. He said, I didn't buy those cleats to sit in the shelf. just tie your shoe tighter. So I tied my shoe tighter, played the whole season on a broken foot.
Wow.
And that's kind of the mentality, kind of like Western PA was for me.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
But I was going to tell you that I played for Coach Price in the blue-gray game. And
did you really?
And his son, what was his son's name?
Eric. Eric was, Eric, and then Aaron was the kicker.
So I think it was Eric who was the quarterback, right? He was QB.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then he coached the blue-gray game, and I was there. You're right, though. He was a great guy.
Oh man, I loved him to death. Still do to this day. He's retired now. He's living up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and hanging out on the lake. But when I was being recruited, we had all the different coaches come through, and I think it was sort of one of those that any good recruiter understands. My mom fell in love with Coach Price. Yeah. And once you've got mom, now mom never actually said you should go here or any of that, but you can tell who mom prefers.
Right.
And then I also had some insight from a friend who was a GA on the staff that I could maybe play early if I went up there, and that ended up being the case too. But it was a cool experience, and it was familiar. Little small town Walla Walla in the middle of the wheat fields out in eastern Washington, and going to Pullman, which was kind of the same size town, and it was a couple hours away, so it felt kind of safe, and that was part of it too. Which made the next transition all that much crazier.
Well, yeah, that had to be tough. So tell me a little bit, like, so obviously in high school you threw the ball around, not as much, but then you get to college, you're throwing it all the time. I think you guys were a big shotgun team. I was the same way at Tulsa. We threw the ball everywhere. But obviously you just, when did you figure out, like, you kind of came into your, where you started lifting, you started doing all these things. And at what point of your college career? Because as a freshman, I guarantee you probably felt like you were still skinny. You're still not to where you want to be, and then there's a point in college where you've been lifting in a real weight room and doing all those things that your body changes.
Yeah. It started honestly kind of my senior year of high school, and then freshman year, I started to kind of, cause all my pieces started to fit a little better. Thankfully I stopped growing when I was a sophomore in high school. So then I had a chance to start catching up at that point. But yeah, I think, my freshman year when I got on the field in fall camp, and started chucking it around a little bit, and figured out that, okay, yeah, I can do this. I can hang with these guys, and so it was kind of around then. And then, the end of my freshman year, I ended up starting kind of halfway through that year. The end of my freshman year, after my freshman year, Mel Kiper said that I was going to be the first draft pick, number one pick in 2 years after my freshman year of college. So then I had to answer that question for the rest of my college career.
Thanks,
are you coming out? Which, obviously is awesome, but it also was like, okay, dude, I'm just like, I'm 18 years old. I'm trying to, enjoy playing some ball here. And next thing you know, I got to answer that question every time I turn around, but it was just sort of funny, but once
got you ready for the media.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all that rabid media in Pullman, Washington. There was the student newspaper, and then the Spokesman Review from Spokane, Washington, and that was it.
That was it. And then, but I'm sure as you got into your senior year, there was a lot more of national publications calling you. You got to do these interviews.
Yeah. We had a good media relations guy in Pullman, and it was cool. It was a piece of advice that resonated with me. And he said, as that stuff started to happen, he goes, make sure that you understand that Drew Bledsoe, the football player, and Drew Bledsoe, the person, are different people, and you don't ever get those two confused. Because the football player guy is going to be on a super high pedestal one day, and he's going to be, thrown in the dumpster the next day, and it's going to be a mercurial thing. But make sure that the person, you keep that thing separate and distinct. And that was advice that stayed with me all the way through. You're just going to make sure that professional side that, goes up and down on a daily and sometimes play-by-play basis, you don't get that confused with the person.
Yeah, no, that's very good advice, and that takes people like that, mentors that can come from all kind of different areas in your life. One little tidbit like that can really help you through your whole career, because as you said, you went from, Washington to, one of the biggest media markets in the world. And then all of a sudden you got everybody around you. So that transition alone had to be kind of, I'm not saying difficult, but different for you.
Oh man, it was crazy, dude. I mean, shoot, you go from, in Pullman, I think, outside of, I think the university was like 22,000 at that point. And I think the rest of the town was like 8,000. Like I said, there was like one newspaper that was kind of close. And then there was the Seattle newspaper, but that was it. And you go to Boston and there's 2 newspapers in town. And then you got Providence and you got New York and you got all of this stuff. And so just the media stuff was absolutely crazy. And then you learn that, in the West, sports is kind of a pastime. It's something that we watch. And, growing up, we had our favorite teams and so on. But, you go watch the game. And then after the game is over, win or lose, you just kind of go on with your day. It's no big deal. Man, you get to Boston. It's a friggin' religion, it's a religion. They take it serious, man. And and I remember and I tried to kind of keep it all to the side, but I remember my rookie year, we played the Steelers and I threw 5 picks, threw 5 interceptions. And so I decided on purpose to go get the newspaper the next day, go get the Boston Herald. So I just wanted to see how bad it could get. Right. And like, okay, well, let's just go see, let's see what they have to say here. And one of the writers opened his article with, it was the worst performance by a quarterback in Patriots football history. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess it can only go up from there.
But I really only got one way to go from here.
From here. Well, I guess, I can't be worse than the worst. So, I guess I'm just going to try and get better. So it was sort of one of those where I at least had the perspective to go see, okay, well, let's just see how terrible this can be. And then we'll rise from there.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining me on Huddle Up with Gus. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. We're talking with Drew Bledsoe. Hey, Huddle Up with Gus listeners. Manscaped. They sent me, they hooked me up with a bunch of tools and formulations for their package 3.0 kit. So, I want to show you guys what's in the perfect package, right? We all think we got a perfect package, but they sent me the perfect package 3.0 kit. I want to show you what they sent me. So it was crazy. It came in this great box, and you can see what it says. They will thank you because they sent us this awesome trimmer. They sent us, stuff that makes you smell better. And then, they sent me this great, some boxers even, which you get, right? Protect them. And then, they sent me this cool sack, I guess you want to call it, to store all your stuff in. So it's been great. Manscaped sent me a bunch of product, and you can see it all on here. You can go to manscaped.com and put in the code Gus Frerotte, that's GUSFREROTTE, get 20% off and free shipping when you use that code. But you can get a kit, you can get individual items like this way cool groomer that has a little LED light, ceramic. These things come apart, they're waterproof. You can do a lot with them. So, Manscaped is great. You know, it's funny. I remember when I was playing with the Denver Broncos, and I'm not going to mention any names, but there was a gentleman who was playing on our team, and if he ever hears the story, he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But he brought his own clippers in one time, and he used it to trim his beard up, his goatee, and everything. And he had them there for about 2 or 3 weeks, and he goes in around the corner. He walks in, and there's another player that is actually manscaping with his beard trimmer. So, one of the things is you don't want to use the same trimmer down there that you use up here. So he kind of freaked out a little bit, and he said, "Hey, how long have you been using that tool there?" And he said, "Well, it showed up here about 3 weeks ago, and I've been using it ever since." So, there is a lesson learned that, don't leave things out. And probably if it would have just said Manscaped on it, we wouldn't have had that issue. But it's probably one of the funniest taking care of your balls stories I've ever heard or been around in the locker room in the NFL. So it's a great story. But I always said there was no way to know. There was no name on it, and the guy was just using it, and another guy was using it. It was not good, but it's a heck of a funny story. So one of the best I've ever heard in my 15 years playing in the league. But there's so many great things about Manscaped and what they're doing, because guys, you got to take care of yourself. Even though I got gray hair and getting older, but you still have to maintain some sort of grooming, right? And so we all work out. For me, I like working in my yard, doing those things now that I'm retired, getting a little sweat on and everything. You want to smell good, you got to take care of yourself. They got some great products. This one, a little ball deodorant. We all need that here and there. After, working in the yard, taking a hike, doing a walk, whatever you do, it's a great thing. But there's so many great products. I want to thank Manscaped for sending them to me. The Lawnmower 3.0, obviously, you can use it anywhere in your body, but I'm sure you guys have all seen the commercials. But this is one just letting you know that the Lawnmower 3.0 comes with the perfect kit. You can buy the lawnmower by itself. You can buy all these products individually. They even sent me this wonderful shirt. You can see the back. Your balls will thank you. And then here's the front. So it's an awesome shirt. They have great gear. And you know what? Sometimes you can just sit back, take care of your balls a little bit, and read the paper. So I think Manscaped even has their own daily news, which is great. So don't forget that you can go to the code GusFerrotte, and that's GUSFREROTTE, and you can save 20% on any products, the perfect package gift set, and you can save 20% and get free shipping. So use the code GusFerrotte, GUSFREROTTE. Hey, everybody spells my name wrong. They even spelled it wrong in the back of my Pro Bowl jersey. So, I gotta help you guys out. So don't forget how important it is that you use these products. Take care of yourself down below and have some fun. All right. There's nothing closer to you than your little buddies. So use the lawnmower. Use the code GusFerrotte, save 20% and get free shipping, and order some great Manscaped products.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. We are talking with Drew Bledsoe. We were just talking with Drew about, the difference between when you're in college and Drew went to a smaller school, and then all of a sudden he's in a huge media market, and how you handle those things and handle the positive and the negative. And so, Drew, when I went to Washington, there was a guy there, you may know his name, Tony Kornheiser. Tony was not a fan of mine. So people not only call you, but you can read the Washington Post. It was kind of like you, where you're at this big media market, and these people could say the worst things. And it's just like, man, my wife would get more upset than anybody.
Yeah, no, it was, and harder on the family than it was on us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because you and I we're out there. At least we can do something about it. But when somebody's attacking somebody you love, man, you want to go after them, and there's really nothing to do. One of the blessings that ended up getting flipped, kind of later in my career, early on. And I love to say this in front of the kids too, because they're like, "Man, you're old, Dad." But it was like pre-internet, right? So early on, and I was 3,000 miles away from home. So my family and loved ones back home, they were seeing highlights, once in a while on ESPN, or some very filtered news that made its way out west. The worst thing for the health and well-being of my folks was the internet, where all of a sudden mom and dad can get on there and you want to see what's going on with your kid. Well, all of a sudden they can read everything from every outlet, unfiltered, and of course it's pre-social media, but it still was all of a sudden, and I think that drove the stress level for my folks through the roof.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden they could see that, and I asked Dad multiple times just to not do it, but what are you going to do? You're going to not go look and see what people say about your kid. But early on, it was a real blessing because I was so far away.
Yeah.
That when I came home, it was a vacation, and my friends and family didn't have to see the bad stuff when it wasn't going well. And they still got to see, thankfully, then they got to see the highlights, because when it was going well, then you made the highlight reel.
Right. Right.
They didn't show a whole bunch of interceptions unless we threw a touchdown to the other team. So it was really a real blessing back then, and being that far away.
The great thing about your career is that you're one of the rare quarterbacks that have thrown way more touchdowns than interceptions. So I think you bring up interceptions way too much. So, you've thrown a ton of them. And you've had some crazy stuff happen in your career where you're a first round draft pick and you're the guy at the Patriots. And then you've had all this stuff happen to you. I mean, I'm not even close to like the same and on the level of you as far as quarterbacks go. But I had some crazy stuff happen in my career too, where, it wasn't something that, you could handle that easy, and you had to deal with it all. And you had to make all these transitions. So tell me a little bit about when you got injured, and then all that comes up. That had to be hard. And you just talked about it. And I know it was tough on your parents as well.
Yeah. I've been in New England and I've been the franchise guy for 8 years, and we'd had some ups, and then we'd had some downs, and we were starting to look like we were going to start coming back out of it. And Belichick had just gotten there the year before, and all of a sudden we looked like we had an offensive line that was ready to rock and ready to rock and roll, and we had some stuff going on, and after all of that, it was right after 9/11. So there was all the emotions surrounding that. It was the first game back after 9/11, and playing the Jets, and I got hit by Mo Lewis on the sidelines. And it was a hard hit. You go back and watch the video. It was a hard hit, but it didn't look like something that was life threatening. But I got up and went back in the game the next series, and it was actually Damon Heward and then our fullback Mark Edwards who ratted me out because I had a pretty bad concussion in addition to the other stuff that was going on, because I went back on the field and we had a check with me. I had to go right or left, and I knew I needed to go left, and knew I needed to go left, go to the bubble, but I couldn't remember what the word was. So I turned around to Mark and said, "Hey, Mark, how do I go left?" He goes, "Say odd." And I'm like, "Okay, odd." So he's like, "Hey, he's not right." And then I went to Damon on the sidelines. I was like, "Hey, let's go over the 2-minute plays." Well, the 2-minute plays have been the same for 2 years, and we ran them every single week, and there are only like 5 or 6 of them. And so Damon goes, "You want to go over the 2-minute plays?" I'm like, yeah, let's just run through them. And so they went and ratted me out, said, "Hey, he's not okay." after the game, I wanted to go in to the locker room. I was like, and our trainer came and grabbed me, and he goes, "Hey, why don't you come with me, bub?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm just going to go for team prayer, and then I'll come." And he goes, "No, I think you need to come with me. You don't look very good." So we went in, and that's when they discovered. So normally, when you have a concussion, your heart rate starts to slow down quickly.
Yeah.
And when I went in, my heart rate started to spike, and that's when they figured out, okay, there's something that's not quite right here. So threw me in the ambulance, and we're driving up to Mass General. My brother actually was out there and jumped in the ambulance with me. And as we're driving up there, they couldn't give me morphine because I'm allergic to morphine, and they couldn't even give me Advil because it's an anticoagulant, and they figured out that I was bleeding out. We're driving up to Mass General, and my brother's sitting there with me, and he told the story. I didn't know the story until 20 years after. I can't remember when he finally told me, but we're driving in. We're on the outskirts of Boston, and I'm sitting there. He said I was just in pain, kind of groaning, and all of a sudden, we're on the outskirts of Boston, and I just went lights out. And he thought I died. And so, and I don't remember any of this stuff. This is all after the fact, but I remember just waking up in the hospital and really had no sense that it had for that being a serious thing until, days later. But turns out I was bleeding out internally. About a third of my blood was inside my chest cavity at that point.
Holy cow.
Recycle and put it back in. So all of that, and so then I go, spend days in the hospital, and they, it's like, God, it was like 6 or 7 weeks later, they let me start working out a little bit. And a couple months later, I get the green light that I'm healthy and I can go back and play. Well, in the interim, this little shit from Michigan who I help raise and who had dinner at my house all the friggin' time, all of a sudden, Tom Brady's on the field and he's starting to play decent. He wasn't Tom Brady at that point, but he was playing decent, and the team was rallying around, and they were playing really good football. So I get finally healthy after almost dying on the friggin' field, and I come back, and my job's not there anymore.
Right.
And I'm like, well, this is fucked up. I'm like, this is not how it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
There was that old fallacy that I don't know who made it up, but I don't think it's ever been true that you don't lose your job to injury. I don't think that's ever been true.
I don't think that's ever been true either.
No, it's like, no, you don't lose your job to injury unless there's somebody else in there that's playing pretty good at a lower salary cap number or whatever.
Right.
But it's like, I don't know who made that up. It was probably, some good intentioned union rep.
Right. First CBA.
Yeah, exactly. And but all of a sudden Tommy's playing pretty good, and my job's not there for me anymore. And man, that was a bitter pill to swallow. That's the first time the first time you're not the guy that was hard. To do some soul searching there and then ultimately, decided, okay, you gotta do the right thing here and go back. And it made it a little bit easier because, I really did love and respect, Tommy. He was practice squad guy the year before, and he had worked his ass off, and just all the things that you want to respect about a person. He had all those things.
Yeah.
If he was a jerk, it would have been a lot harder. But ultimately, was able to go back and support him and support the team. Thankfully, he was nice enough to sprain his ankle in the AFC Championship game, so he let me play for a little bit. But then, of course, he gets healthy for the Super Bowl because
right.
They threw him back out there. But it was a crazy time, it was. And people ask about that stuff from time to time. And it wasn't easy, but at the end of the day, I tell people, and it's a perspective that I think that anybody that's privileged enough to be us has to have. Man, look, if I get paid to play a game, there's no room for self-pity. Yeah. You don't get to feel sorry for yourself when you're a professional athlete, because you're living out the childhood dream of most young people in the United States and really worldwide. So I was able to learn to cherish the cherish the challenge and embrace adversity. And that's something that is transcended on into the business world and into the rest of life. Adversity is inevitable. It's going to come. And if you can learn to embrace that and use it as a stepping stone for self-improvement, for business improvement, for sports improvement, for any of that kind of stuff, and you can turn that adversity into a positive thing, then you're set up for some success.
Yeah, you really are. And I think that that's probably the first time hearing this story for me that you face that kind of adversity, because throwing an interception or losing a game is a type of adversity, but it's not like what you went through. And it's difficult because I've been through a shit ton of adversity in my life and had to fight through a lot of stuff. And on the other end, it only makes you stronger, and it gives you something that you've never had before. Yeah. And so tell me about how that affect, and then you go on through the rest of your career. Yeah. And so what, did it change your perspective on things at all? Or did it, how did that change you in a way?
Yeah. I know that I appreciated more the opportunity that I had, because it was the first time that it was taken away. I remember when I think it was probably my last year, and I was in Dallas, and in the old stadium, and I just hated
that stadium.
Oh, it was terrible. It was terrible. It was a terrible stadium.
That sun would come in and half the field would be lit up.
No, it was just, and the turf was hard, and it was and plus Jerry was not maintaining anything because he was trying to work on the new stadium deal, and so it was just in shambles. But we were coming down. I made it a point, and coming down the tunnel before each game, we were going out to get ready to get introduced. I would always find a rookie as I was walking down the tunnel. I would just grab him by the back of the pads, like, dude, how cool is this? We get to go do this. Right. And look at me like, what are you doing? Like, oh yeah, it's pretty cool. Right. But weird old man. But I really do think that I appreciated it going forward from there. And also I think in some ways understood that at that point that life would go on. If I wasn't playing anymore, I still got a great wife and family, and there's a lot of good stuff out here that's not tied to ball, and life's going to go on, and there will be life after this, and so I think that it did change certainly my perspective, going through that.
Yeah, that is hard, because 25 years doing the same thing. But it sounds like we're very close, because my other life was my family and my kids and enjoying them, so that when I was done, they were always going to be around, because you've seen, like me, a lot of guys who didn't do that. And then all of a sudden they're done playing, and there's this family and kids. They have no idea what to do or how to handle it, or, what do I do now? So it sounds like you made that transition pretty smooth. So what point in your career, when you were in the NFL, where did you really got into wine? Because everybody's been out, like, you're young, you've had some wine, but to where you really say, oh, I understand it, I get it, I want to do this.
Yeah. There were, first of all, with two parents who were school teachers, there certainly wasn't a lot of wine around the house, and there certainly wasn't any good wine. If it was wine, it was that
$8 Mogan David.
Yeah, exactly. So it was not something that was part of my life growing up. But same, exactly what you said. You get into the league, you have a couple nickels in your pocket, and you go out to dinner. We're like, oh, well, we should have some wine, because that's what people do when they go out to a nice dinner. So early on, we drink some wine because we're supposed to. But kind of partway into probably, I don't know, year 4 or 5, started to get into it a little bit more, and collect some wine and all that. But probably the turning point for me, where I started to figure out, okay, maybe this could be something that I could get into, later as a business. We'd have guys come over to the house, and I would just tell them, hey, bring a bottle of red wine.
Yeah.
And so guys would go grab something, and invariably it'd be, something from California or something from Bordeaux or whatever. And, some guys would try to show off. Other guys would try to sneak a cheap bottle in. We all know. we all know those teammates, right? There's some guys that are going to puff their chest out and try to show, and then there are other guys that are just going to be cheapskates. But anyway, they would come over to the house. We would do blind tastings at the house just for fun, right? We'd put all the wines in paper bags, and we would just taste through them and pretend to be wine dorks. Well, I had discovered that my hometown, Walla Walla, was actually making wine, right? And matter of fact, one of my next door neighbors was Leonetti Cellars, they were making these, really highly regarded wines that were getting big scores and all of this stuff. So I would always sneak a Walla Walla wine into the mix with these big boys from Napa and these big boys from Bordeaux. Right. Every time I did that, my hometown wines would win the wine tasting. Oh. We'd do the big reveal at the end, and we'd throw it was like, oh shit, the one that we liked was Leonetti, or the one that we liked was Pepper Bridge or Woodward Canyon. And so I think for me, that was like, oh, wow. My little hometown with the funny name that I couldn't wait to get out of is all of a sudden, growing wine grapes that are making wines that can compete with the best in the world.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of when the light bulb went off, like, oh, okay, maybe we could do something here. Because we got the competitive advantage of going back to your hometown where you can hopefully get the right people to work for you, get the right piece of dirt, all that stuff. You've got the marketing story of it being my hometown,
right?
Which is a huge piece of it.
And that's how you came up with the name Doubleback, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Grew up. People have asked the football term, right? Quarterback, halfback, fullback, doubleback. Like, no, it's not that. We wanted this. We wanted the story to be about returning home.
Yeah,
because there was a stigma attached then that's less true now, attached to athlete wines, where most of them weren't very good. To be honest with you, most of them were endorsement deals. Where you go slap your name on a bottle of somebody's third wine that they're trying to get rid of, and so we didn't want the story to be.
They were gift wines.
They were, exactly. Matter of fact, I doubt Freddie Boletnikoff will ever hear this, but Freddie was a guy that I got to spend time with when I was a little kid, and has always been a hero. But recently, somebody gave me some of Freddie's wine as a gift, and I actually opened a bottle, and it's like, oh, dude, no.
This just has Freddie's picture on it. It goes on the shelf.
Yeah, it's number 25, and Freddie signed one, and that's where it's going to be a trophy forever and ever. Amen. But we wanted the story to be about a small town kid that grows up and is fortunate enough to go, have a career and then doubles back and comes back home.
Yeah.
And I think that started to resonate with people. The best compliments ever are people that will reach out or like, hey, I had the wine, really liked it. I had no idea you were involved until I turned the bottle around. I really liked the wine, and then I found out you were involved. Like, okay, that's cool, because you're not into this, because you're trying to be nice. That, and then I got the super backhanded compliments from old teammates, who would buy the wine because they had to. You got to support your guy. And then I get these texts, these phone calls, like, dude, I had the wine. It's actually really good. Yeah. Like, oh, so you're surprised? You thought I was going to make some shit wine? They're like, well, yeah, kind of. So, but it's been a cool ride, man. It really has.
You're like, it has nothing to do with me. It's all about the ground, the soil, and how they grow the grapes. So I listened to your show that you did about talking about how you have different patches of grapes, and then they're close together, but still they produce a different flavor, tones, tannins, all that stuff that come through the soil. So
absolutely,
explain to us a little bit about which one is your favorite. Like, are you a Cab guy? Or are you a Chardonnay guy? Which one's your favorite?
Yeah, if there's only going to be just one forever and ever, amen, it would be Cab. I think it also happens to be. And I don't know if it's sort of the chicken or the egg conversation, right? Do I like Cab because that's what Walla Walla does best? Or do I like Cab? And so when we started growing Cab, but however that pieces together, that would be the one. I'm going to just drink one forever. And it is kind of interesting though in our valley. You touched on this just a little bit, but and it's a small little valley. It's 20 miles wide, like a big 20-mile wide bathtub. But within that, in very close proximity are these radically different soil types and growing, what the French call terroir, where you get different aspects to the sun, different hillside elevations. And so you can take all of that stuff and you can put it together. And the goal at the end of it is to make something that gets more and more interesting the more time you spend with it, rather than just being, a stereotypical football player wine that it's just punch you in the face, big fruit, big oak, big alcohol, just, instead we wanted to produce something that had some subtlety and some nuance and some balance that got more interesting over time. And then, as one of the coolest pieces of it, and we touched on this a little bit earlier, was discovering that a lot of the things that were important in quarterbacking a good football team and being part of a good organization carried over very directly into business and specifically into the wine business. Probably at the very top of that was putting together the right team. Shoot, man, you and I were really good at our job, but we were only really good at our job if we had 5 badass dudes in front of us, giving us some room, and some amazing dudes downfield that were open and where they were supposed to be when they were supposed to be there. If that happened, you and I were pretty good. If that didn't happen, we weren't very good. And for me, it's the same in the wine business. I just have some great people around me that make me look good.
Yeah, I was looking at your story a little bit. It's pretty amazing how you built that team. And then, each set of grapes has their own little people that handle it. And you have to find those people that want to do that want to be there, and I think that's the same way. Like when you're building a team, it's not only us on the field. There's the, the people that are finding all the guys that need to be on the field with us, the coaches who are putting all the plays together, because you can't do it all. And so what's your favorite part of being in this business? Like obviously drinking it is, right up there, but what's your favorite part? Is it is it like saying, okay, this is how long it has to be in a barrel, or like there's so many different parts to it. It's always very interesting to me.
I think my favorite part is that there are so many aspects to it. So I mean that's sort of a cop-out answer, but it's actually really the truth. So we're in real estate first. We're actually in the process of looking to acquire more land right now. Then we're farmers. We have our own farming company, which is a really cool aspect to what we do, because we we're sustainable across the board, and that the most important piece of that is sustainability with our people. Where our farming crew, we hire them year round, and then they work for us year round. They've got health benefits, retirement benefits, and that's
awesome.
But because of that, they take care of our ground and take care of our vines better than any other crew in the region. So we're farmers second, and then we're into production, and that's where you get into all the nuance of the winemaking process, which, again, I know just enough to be dangerous. If you gave me some world-class grapes, I could go make you some perfectly average wine. But I've got great people that actually take world-class grapes and make great wine. But then you're into marketing and brand development and sales and customer service and fulfillment and problem solving. And so when you put all of those things together, I mean, because as a quarterback, to the uninformed, people think, oh, well, you just throw the ball. Like, right. Okay, well, that's about 5% of what a quarterback does. I use the illustration. We all watched Peyton Manning at the end. He won a Super Bowl and he couldn't throw.
Right.
Like I know Elway was sitting up on the box watching Peyton on the field. He's like, I'm sitting up here in a suit and I'm 60 years old and I could still go down and throw better than that. Right. But Peyton was still able to, win a Super Bowl. Right. And so, when you look at the wine business, it's really fun because it's never static. And it's also seasonal. I was thinking about this the other day. I've never had a year that I remember in my life that wasn't just entirely dependent on the seasons.
Yeah.
When we're young, that meant, well, it's fall, so it's football season. It's winter, so it's basketball season. It's spring, so for you it's baseball. For me, it's track season, and then summertime, is vacation. So my life was always seasonal, and then you go play pro ball, and it's very seasonal.
Right.
You're either in season or off season. And now in the wine business, it's extremely seasonal again. So I don't know what I would do. Honestly, I don't know how I would survive if you told me that 12 months out of the year were going to be the same. I wouldn't. I'd probably go crazy. I wouldn't know how to handle that.
Yeah, it would be very tough. And I love that idea of it being seasonal, and obviously wine is seasonal, and there's so many components to it. And, I had Will, what's Will's Blackman?
Will Blackman, yeah.
So Will, we were talking about, one of the hardest parts about being in the wine business is selling the wine. Like, you can make wine, but if nobody wants to buy it, or you can't market it or get it out there or ship it, it doesn't matter. So
Absolutely.
all that has to kind of be fun, but also be very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, well, I remember we had our first vintage in the bottle, and we hadn't even put it, hadn't even attempted to sell a bottle yet. We bottled it, and then we generally after it goes to bottle, we'll hold it for like 6 months before we actually release it. And so the first day we had the wine in the bottle, brought a bottle home, and sat down, just my wife and myself, and we sat down. It was sort of like this moment of truth, like, okay, and just the two of us shared a bottle, and so we're just kind of sitting there quietly having dinner and sipping on the wine. So I look over like, well, what do you think? She goes, well, I hope people buy it, but if they don't, I like it. So we got a lot of wine to drink. That piece of it, so people have asked, okay, how do you replace the competitiveness of football in your life? Where do you go for that? And I'm like, well, I left football. I actually got into the most competitive industry in the world. By product SKU, it's the most competitive in the world. There are 50,000 unique bottles of wine made worldwide on an annual basis. And so to try to stand out as one in 50,000, man, you got to compete all day, every day. And and it's been fun for us too. The team we put together, it's not part of the interview process. It's not a question that we ask in the interview process, but they're almost all athletes. They're almost all like team-oriented athletes. Matter of fact, Hope, who is our director of sales for the double back side of our business, she and her mom went into the Walla Walla High School Hall of Fame on the same day.
Oh, really? That's really cool.
So we've got there's 2 Walla Walla High School Hall of Famers on our team. I get to be one of those. Let's go Blue Devils. Woo! And then Hope. But our team, they're competitive as hell, and in really good ways. They're never trying to stomp on our neighbor. As a matter of fact, they're always trying to build up our neighbors around us, because we want everybody to do well. We just want to do better than everybody else, and by having that super competitive team, especially on the sales side, allows us to stay at the front of the line.
Oh yeah, you want Walla Walla to be that name. If it's an individual person, it's probably a lot harder. But Napa, there's a ton of people there, right? Or Walla Walla, if your whole community is doing well, everybody's going to know, hey, we need some wine from Walla Walla.
Absolutely. It's the biggest difference from my, there's a lot of similarities. It's the biggest difference from our previous life that you and I lived to the wine business. In football, you want your competitor to lose, and you want them to lose as bad as possible.
Right.
Especially if it's the Jets, right? You want the Jets to lose 50-0 every single game and never, ever win another one, right?
Well, that kind of comes true sometimes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it doesn't break my heart at all. But in the wine business, if my neighbor does well, it's good for me, right? And our community really embraces that, where we're always supportive of the other people in our community, the other businesses in our community, because it's actually good business to have my neighbor do well and make better wine.
Yeah, I would think so. So Drew, you know what? You had amazing career in the NFL. I want to congratulate you on all that and all that success. And then now you have an amazing career in your second job business that in the wine industry, and that you can't say that for a lot of guys. And you're doing something special that I think a lot of people enjoy. And I appreciate you taking the time to tell me a little bit about your story on Huddle Up with Gus.
Absolutely, man. Well, we got to we need to get together and drink some wine, but because I'm
all for it.
At the end of the day, that's the reward for this cool business I get to be in. But I will tell you, man, and I know that that you would echo this, man. What a crazy cool ride we've gotten to go on. I mean, isn't it? I mean, geez, man, you think about when you're a little kid, you're out at recess, throwing the ball around, throwing the Nerf football around, and you're pretending like. I remember way back when I wanted to be Terry Bradshaw, because Terry Bradshaw, before like the draft class in '83, it was Terry Bradshaw. He was the guy.
Oh yeah, he was the guy.
And especially for you in Pennsylvania,
that was my number. That's why I have my number. So
yeah, got you. Yeah.
When he came to Washington and interviewed me, and how you talked about like those guys, when he came and interviewed me in Washington, I was kind of in awe, right? Because there's the guy I always watched on every Sunday morning.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think about that, and you and I got to do that, man. I mean, how freaking cool
I know, it's crazy.
I mean, it's just crazy. And then, for me to go from there and then to be able to, go back to my hometown and call my second career, the wine business. I mean, shoot, man, it's been a pretty crazy, cool ride. I've been, I've been extremely blessed in my life in so many ways. And I truly don't take it for granted. I really appreciate it. And
I'll come up. We'll take a bottle of wine up. We'll go see my old best man, John Freeze, up in Coeur d'Alene, and go see Coach Price, and we'll have some wine with them. It sounds like a good time.
Heck yeah, man. We got to get that back together with Freeze. I haven't seen Freeze in about 15 years. I see some pictures every now and then. But love Freeze, and come on out, man. We'll show you a good time, and we'll drink some good wine, maybe hit a golf ball or something. Yeah,
I love it. So tell all of our guests, how they can follow you and how they can find your wine.
Oh, right on. Yeah. Thanks, man. No, just the Instagram stuff is just at Drew Bledsoe. It's BLEDSOE. And then, on the wine side, it's just doubleback.com. You can go find us there. And then, if you go there, we actually have 3 separate and distinct wineries. But you go to Doubleback, you can find the other stuff too. So yeah,
awesome.
Appreciate
it. Sounds
man.
like you're growing. It sounds like you're growing. I wish you the most success, and thank you again for sharing your story.
Right on, Gus, man. Great to talk to you, buddy, and look forward to seeing you out here in the Pacific Northwest here before too long.
I would love it. My wife and I will be driving the Airstream out soon.
Oh, there you go. We've got a good spot for you to park the Airstream right on the property.
I love it.
You can roll it up, and we don't have. You got to go dump your own septic. We don't let you do that. But
we'll do it before we get there.
There, yeah, good. But no, we've got a great spot with some great views right in the vineyard where you can park the trailer and hang out for a little bit.
Love it. I think we have we're going to have our little wine cellar in the whole back of the RV. That's what's going to power us through.
I love it, man. I love it.
All right, Drew. Thanks again, man. I appreciate you.
Right on, brother.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us on another great episode of Huddle Up with Gus. I want to thank Sounder FM, and I also want to thank 1631 Digital News Studio and super producer Brian. Happy birthday to Terry. And thanks again, Ian, for doing all of our social. Everyone have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
And that's a wrap, sports fans. Thanks for joining in the fun at the 1631 Digital Studios for another action-packed Huddle Up with Gus, featuring 15-year NFL quarterback Gus Frerotte. Huddle Up with Gus is proudly produced by 1631 Digital Media and is available on Apple Music.